Welcome to the Interprofessional Space podcast, where the spirit of inquiry meets healthcare collaboration. In our podcast, we discuss all things interprofessional education. According to the World Health Organization, interprofessional education, or IPE, is when students from at least two healthcare professions learn about, from, and with each other to improve health outcomes and enable effective collaboration.
Today, we're going to talk about IPE with Tony Breitbach. Dr. Anthony Breitbach is a professor, certified athletic trainer, and director of interprofessional education at St. Louis University. He is a fellow of the Association of Schools Advancing Health Professions, chairs its interprofessional committee, and is president-elect of the National Academies of Practice. Additionally, Dr. Breitbach is deputy chair of the board of Interprofessional.Global and helps facilitate their communications team. He is an associate editor for multiple journals, including the Journal of Interprofessional Care. Welcome, Tony. Thank you for joining us today.
We're so glad you're here.
And I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to talking IPE with you both.
So we heard a little bit in your bio, a lot actually in your bio, but if you could just sort of in your own words, tell us about your journey into healthcare and then how you sort of shifted into the interprofessional education world.
I tell people this story fairly often. I really, in my core, I'm a clinician. So I worked as an athletic trainer. I went to the University of Iowa as an athletic trainer. Like every athletic training student, they want to be in the NFL, they want to be in, the NBA or all those kind of things like that. And so I worked through and actually after I graduated with my master's degree from the University of Florida in 1987, I really received an opportunity to work at a brand new sports medicine clinic in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. One of our orthopedic surgeons from Florida went there and said, we're starting this new clinic that's, has athletic trainers and PTs and physicians and nurses and all those kind of things like that. So I began working in that type of setting, and I just began to figure out that this is something I'm pretty good at, and so I got a chance to do that. I actually worked at Scottish Rite Children's Hospital in Atlanta, Georgia. And then I got a chance to go back to my hometown and start a sports medicine clinic from scratch and through an outreach program. And we really grew it. I mean, we went from one athletic trainer to 10 athletic trainers to 6 physical therapists to, a bunch of orthopedic surgeons and primary care sports medicine docs and all that. So I've been always working in that kind of setting. I didn't really know what the word interprofessional meant. But I just, that's how I worked all the time. And then I got a chance to be involved with education at Clark University in Dubuque, Iowa. And I knew I wanted to do that long term, but I needed a way to really access, more education for myself. And so I got a chance to go to St. Louis University in 2000, where I was the head athletic trainer for 7 years. And then I moved over to faculty when I got my PhD in 2007 and started the athletic training program. My first year in athletic training at St. Louis University, when you build a new program, you don't have any students yet, right? Your first year is spent building the curriculum and recruiting and all those types of things like that. So Irma Rubling, who ran this new fledgling IPE program here at St. Louis University, who also, I got to know through my transition process to faculty. She's like, we need people to help teach these IPE courses. And I started teaching them and I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly the way I've delivered care for the last 22 years. I mean, this is what we do. So it became really easy. I became really passionate about it. I started talking to my colleagues in athletic training and like, oh my God, have you heard this interprofessional thing? This is like us. This is all we've ever done. And so as a result, I really became a champion within athletic training. And I was part of the executive committee for education, where we developed these new future directions document. And one of our recommendations is that IPE was included in athletic training education. And as a part of that, the ECE members actually had to develop a strategic plan for implementation of that recommendation. So one of the things we did was we developed this NATA Interprofessional Education Practice work group where we wrote a white paper, and then we developed a LinkedIn group, and we have a Twitter feed, and we have all of those types of things. And because we found out we needed to inform our profession, and we needed to inform other professions about what we were capable of doing in the interprofessional space. So I started to become really comfortable being a kind of a hopefully a trusted source around interprofessional education in athletic training, and then eventually kind of sprouted over into other opportunities. And I got a chance to do things through ASAP and through AIHC and through NAP and then interprofessional.global and interprofessionalresearch.global. So a lot of different types of things that way. But I found it was so fun that you just want to do things that are fun because they're fun, right? I never really viewed my interprofessional work as something that is hard. It's just the way I like to. It's the way I like to work. I like to collaborate. I like to build win-wins for teams and those kind of things like that. So yeah, no, I really came out of this. I 22 years of collaborative practice, and then I got a chance to be an educator, and I'm like, well, I can teach people to do this. That's pretty cool. So yeah.
So it's interesting when I'm listening to you talk about your work and beginning in athletic training. Do you think now that you've sort of working with all different kinds of professions, it sounds like your work as athletic trainer sort of lend itself naturally to being interprofessional, right? With the physical therapist and whatnot. Do you see that same situation happen across professions, or do you see some professions are kind of inherently more interprofessional in their work just because of the work that they do, and some that are less? Have you found that?
Yeah, there's some you find this with the professional cultures. There's some professions that are really focused on, hey, this person needs to be able to practice independently when they leave, right? That's our claim to fame. Our graduates can go and work by themselves. They're ready to go, practice ready, right?
Mhm.
Whereas other professions is, like in athletic training, um, the worst thing you can say about an athletic trainer is they're not a team player. Like that's the worst thing you can say on a reference call for one of your graduates is that if they're not a team player. So, and the reality of athletic training, because we're embedded into a setting where it's all about teamwork, it's all about team success. And a Division I athletic training facility like we had at St. Louis University is fundamentally a patient-centered medical home. So the athletic trainers do the care coordination, they triage everything, and then we have a team of people around us who we access at the appropriate time. So, and we also have weekly sports medicine team meetings. So, we really, the idea of a patient-centered medical home, we do that in athletic training all the time, especially at the collegiate level. They come to us first. They text us first. They come to us for everything. They just don't show up at the emergency room by themselves. I mean, they'll message us and say, "Hey, I feel really, really sick," or those types of things like that. And we're like, "Okay, let me call doc. We'll get you set up, and the resident will meet you at the emergency room. We'll do all those kind of things like that." That's just something that is just a part of our practice. So, but I do think there are some professions that really value that kind of team concept, but other professions that really, they really want to make them autonomous practice ready on graduation, and those are a little sometimes that's the reason why sometimes there's a misalignment when we're teaching interprofessionally, that not everyone's got the same kind of North Star, the same goal in mind. And I think getting that shared mental model out of the gate when you're designing interprofessional education is really, really important. Getting people on that North Star of person-centered care, teamwork, understanding roles and responsibilities and communications and values, and really how we work together as teams.
So I think talking from that in your role, so this past summer you became the director of interprofessional education
Yeah.
at St. Louis University. So What are you doing, I guess, in your role to establish that from the beginning, and how do you deliver interprofessional education at St. Louis?
Okay, so what brought me into this role was I've taught in the interprofessional education program here for 15 years. So what brought me into this role is kind of how IPE started at SLU was we used to have kind of a medical campus and our north campus, which is our traditional campus, and they're about a mile away from each other. Um, so at one time there became some funds available, and we started an initiative on the medical campus, which was interprofessional education, and they started some initiative on the north campus. And then there became a realignment of academic units and all those types of things. And so the IPE program moved with that VP of the medical campus in under the School of Medicine. However, most of our IPE programming here at St. Louis University, where we have a three-course concentration in interprofessional practice, which is actually aligned with our university core curriculum. We have three additional courses get you to a minor as an undergraduate. And then we have a graduate level interprofessional team seminar. I can talk about that in a little bit later. But the School of Medicine found themselves teaching this large amount of undergraduates, like this, all of these undergraduates. And it finally got to the point where the School of Medicine's like, you know what, this might be better off located somewhere else in the university. So we got the ability to take all of this experience that we've had and just totally reassess where we need to be. And I was part of the AIHC Organizational Models Task Force, and we took the HPAC guidelines, the Health Professions Accreditation Collaborators guidelines, and then we developed this new model that we're housed under the provost centrally within the university, not in anyone's college, because when it's in someone's college, it's like their program, and we just happen to play in the sandbox with them, right? Right. But if it's centrally, it sends a really strong message to the university that interprofessional collaboration is a core feature of our university, and it's something we want to hang our hat on. So we kept almost all of the same programming. We just changed the governance model, and we also felt comfortable moving forward with some initiatives we've been wanting to do for a while, like a micro-credential. We've developed a graduate level micro-credential now in interprofessional collaboration that's actually open to any student in the entire university. It could be biomedical engineering, law, psychology, public health, social work, all of our colleagues across the university. And what we developed was we developed three teams. So we have an administrative team who's our group of people that work in our office every day, and that really just manage the daily interprofessional education program, because we have about in 2023, 24, we had 915 students enroll in one of our classes during the year. So we got a pretty big operation. So they're big classes, about 150 students each. We offer them every semester. So then, that just takes some coordination, right? Then what we've done is we've changed our faculty model. We used to pay a lot of people like adjuncts, and we used to pay money to the colleges and all that. What we've done is we actually went to our constituent colleges and said, would you have any faculty that you'd be willing to allocate 25% of their workload to the IPE program, and we won't be going back to you asking for anything? Like, it'll be like no money changes hands, and then we make them part of our core team, and we give them a dual appointment within our university. So when they write their rank and tenure documents, we found that was something that's really, really important. We need to really identify a role that faculty have with IPE, because it usually is always viewed as an extracurricular, right? Something you do on the side, those kind of things like that. Now our faculty can actually say 25% of my workload is IPE. So when I write my dossier up for my promotion and tenure, I can write directly to that. So then we have our core team, who really is the spine of our teaching faculty. We still hire a few adjuncts here and there, but they're really the spine of our teaching faculty. And we have monthly core team meetings where we really try to work to build continuity across the courses, because our courses are scaffolded, and really talk about, really building some common practices and expectations for the students as they move through our program, using consistent terminology, using consistent standards as far as even things like turning assignments in late, all those types of things like that. And we also do longitudinal scholarship in our program, and then we coordinate that, and all of those core faculty become co-authors on it, and those types of things like that. And then we're in the process of putting together an advisory team. There's some other things that are happening at the university. We just kind of delayed it a little bit, but we'll have a larger advisory team where we start pulling in more and more ideas. We've just been doing that kind of organically now, but we will have a formal advisory team moving forward. Yeah.
So you mentioned scaffolding, which is really interesting, and it's something that I try to do at Maine College of Health Professions. And I'm curious, do you use a theory, or how do you scaffold those? Do you identify them as sort of practice level, metacognitive? Do you have a framework for that?
Yeah, a couple different things. So with today's learner and learners in general, you kind of have to get their attention immediately. Like you need to demonstrate its value. So I would say we use adult learning theory. We use kind of social behavioral learning theories. So, but the reality is we really use a modular approach, and so our initial course is called Interprofessional Education, Collaboration, and Healthcare in a Global Context. And it contains two attributes of our university core called identities and context and global interdependence. Okay. So what we've done in that first course is we really lay out the case for interprofessional collaboration in the first. We don't teach them everything they need to know about it, but we want them to leave that course with the fact that this is valuable. So everything I learned from here on out will be informed by what I learned in 2100. So one of the things that was really cool when we embedded the core, when we originally taught IPE, it was like, okay, you're a physical therapy student. This is you, a physical therapist on a team, right? Now this is you as a human being, your identity. How does your personal identity influence your identity as a health professional? And how does that identity influence your role, getting that dual identity, providing unique expertise to an interprofessional care team? And so that has really matured how we teach about this. So that's how we start the class. If you talk about professionalism, we talk about identity, we talk about dual identity, we talk about different roles, different professions, those kind of things like that. And then our second part of that class is we move into teaching them about the United States healthcare system. So this is the system you're going into, and these are the challenges it faces regarding access and quality and equity and all those types of things like that. Then we go to them and say, there's these big, hairy global problems that we need to address, right? And because our students don't have a lot of clinical experience in these early courses, we use climate change and the Anthropocene, the concept of man's impact on the environment, as one of our big kind of one. We also use One Health and these big, hairy global problems that we must face. And then at the end of that, we teach them about global health systems. So they learn about, we have 25 teams of 6 in the class, and each of them have a different country, and they actually do a presentation on that country, not only about their healthcare system, about their culture and their history and their religion and their politics and their economics, because all of those things influence healthcare. And the understanding how these are interdependent with each other is really, really important, and so we hope that the students will say, okay, none of these systems are perfect, because anyone in any country will tell you this, and it's a very complex world we live in. But guess what? There's things that I can keep in mind. Healthcare is a right, those types of things, and those types of things that they pull out that we must work as teams to develop, and better access to care and lower costs and all those types of things like that. So yeah, that's the beginning. So then in our second course, so we think about scaffolding, we got their attention about everything. The second course is what's called the clinical decision-making course. And what that is, that's about the interpersonal experience of care. So that's about how we interact with our patients, their families, each other in the system. And so we really drilled down more, and we actually had them do team interviews of standardized patients, and we really spend a lot of time with ethics and these different dilemmas that we face in healthcare when we're working with people, and healthcare is hard, right? And especially collaboration in healthcare is hard. And then the third one we do is we do a community practicum experience where they actually go out in 6-person teams. So now we're about the personal aspects of care. Now, what about societal and community aspects of care? They go out in 6-person teams and actually meet with community partners, and they actually do a needs analysis and sit down with the community partners, because the community partners know what they need, right? Like, you know, previously it was like, hey, you have a bunch of old people here. Let's teach you how not to fall. Like, they're like, we teach them how not to fall every single day. We don't need your help with that. What we knew is we need your help with creating resources and maybe a more appropriate levels of health literacy or something like that. And then at the end of the semester, and we actually have 3 core attributes built into that one. So it's collaborative inquiry, reflection and action, and actually it's a writing intensive course. So in that course, that community practicum course, our students write to 6 different audiences during the semester. So they write a professional proposal. They need to do something with 5th grade health literacy. They need to do something. They need a professional poster presentation. They need to, do all those. They do a social media post, a bunch of different types of things like that. So yeah, that's how that's scaffolded. So we kind of grab their attention and give them the basics in that first course, and then we build their skills around those areas on the interpersonal side in the second course, and then the community societal side. And advocacy is another theme that goes throughout our entire, is you cannot separate advocacy from your role as a health professional. It's automatic. It's not a choice. So like, if you choose to become a health professional, you must be an advocate. You must advocate for your patients, their families. You must advocate for yourself, your profession, the health of communities, those types of things like that. So we try to instill in our students that sense of duty for advocacy, because it's really, really important.
Kind of thinking, well, I guess because you're talking about advocacy, but then also looking at I think, we're looking at developing leaders in healthcare, right? And how do we, I think, how best, or how do you use interprofessional education to develop their leadership qualities and the way that they're leading others, or what do you think is important for that?
I think in a couple different things, Susie. So I think in the kind of the micro level in our courses and those types of things, and then the macro level and how we're engaging with our professions and these different organizations and all those. So let's talk about the micro level. So at the micro level, we need to give our students authentic opportunities for leadership, and we need to put them in those safe spaces where they feel comfortable holding themselves accountable. Um, they understand what situational leadership is all about. Those some of those team step principles, right? Um, which are really, really important. And then we as faculty must model it. We must be supportive. We must create that safe space. We must show respect for each other. We must stay organized, right? I mean, the thing about teaching interprofessional education, it's a production, right? You need to look at it as every class is like you're wicked at the Fox Theater, right? You must have all your ducks in a row, otherwise you look terrible. And so as a result, one of the things we've learned is we always have one of our student workers in the class with us to handle all of the technical stuff during class. Because what happens is there's nothing more jarring when you're teaching 150 students that you're all of a sudden Microsoft decides to update computer while you're teaching, or or something didn't get published in Canvas and the students can't access that handout, because you don't want to like take down all your slides and go in and I just tell the student, hey, I think we need to press the publish button on that thing in Canvas, those kind of things. They go in and do that, or a student uploaded the wrong document or something. And for somebody to that level of support is really, really important. The other thing I would say also is you have intentional design and allow for authentic learning, right? Students are very resourceful on how to make things happen if you design activities where they have to collaborate, right? Like you're not going to get out of here till you collaborate. So you might as well figure it out, right? And they're really good at figuring it out, but they will take the path of least resistance. I mean, they'll and so as a result, so we need to design activities. We need to model those behaviors, and we need to give students that safe space and a little bit of structure to be able to step into those leadership roles, right? In our organizations, I'm sorry, Susie.
No, I was just going to say, because I guess I find time and again when we talk about collaboration, it's almost like just a leveling of the playing field. But I know in real life situations, there are going to be leaders, and it's like how to develop those as well, which I think can be a bit, it's like an added complexity.
Yeah, and some people are more comfortable doing that than others. I mean, like for example, there's I've been really fortunate to have some really great opportunities with professional organizations to be in leadership roles where, and it's something that's fairly comfortable to me. I mean, I think, but it's not comfortable to everyone. But when you're in those roles, you need to model the leadership qualities that you would like to see. You need to make people feel like they're supported and that they have safe space and they have a voice and I think sometimes it's easy, right? The expedient way to get things done is like, hey, I'll do it and I'll put your name on it, right? No, but the real collaboration happens when it's hard, when you got to work your way through some stuff and it's not comfortable and those types of things like that. And it's the ability to create that context is really, really an important quality of good leaders. If they can create that context where everybody feels like they're coming out of it with their appropriate level of input and engagement and growth, I think that's the real challenge, and that's the real opportunity for leaders, because we have to model it in our organizations. If we're claiming to be an interprofessional organization, we can't just retreat to our trenches and our hierarchies that we've always had over the years, just because it's easier, right? Or we're afraid to let maybe a non-traditional player shine a little bit in the universe. And that's something I've taken a lot of pride in as an athletic trainer. I mean, our educational model and kind of where we're at as far as the payment structure within the healthcare system, we have a different way of doing things, and to be able to be at the table and be a strong voice and contribute is really something that's pretty important to me.
That wraps up part 1 of our conversation with Tony. Be sure to tune into our next episode, where we'll hear more insights and dive deeper into all things interprofessional education. You won't want to miss it.